Okay, so today I have a new setup today. As some of you guys can see, I have some Netflix stuff playing in the background, but I actually wanted this thing, which is to show you guys that the end of Evangelion is on Netflix, essentially. Actually, there's three stuffs on Netflix. You guys can see there's like this. This is the end of Evangelion, and then come on, or okay, this is the normal Evangelion series, and this is the Death Through 2, which is kind of the ending of the normal series, but a bit changed. But yeah, today we're essentially going to be talking about the end of Evangelion. And welcome, Genevieve. Don't forget to write in the comments like the most confusing thing to you in the series. I mean, it's a stretch when you think about it, because the entire movie it's so confusing, but if you can find like something to actually write about, like something that you found more confusing than the rest, I would be very happy to actually answer that. So without further ado, let's talk about well, for those who have seen the previous episodes, I finished like episode 2 of Let's Study Evangelion with how did Hideaki Anno react to those negativity, like the death threat letters, and also people vandalizing the Gainax Studios. Those things basically happened when they released a movie version of the original ending of the anime, which is called the Death and Rebirth Project. So what happened is basically the ending of the original anime was very well received overall. Like, it was really a great thing. And Hideaki Anno is an experimenter. He likes to try stuff. So he wanted to make an experiment on the public. So one of the most important experiment he made is that he wanted to see how the public would react if he released the exact same ending than the anime, but in a movie format. Like, because people really had good memories when it comes to Evangelion, the original anime series. So what happens if you give to people what they feel a bit like nostalgic for, like what they really liked? You show them again exactly the same. It's that super nostalgic feeling, like, oh, Evangelion was so great. What if I watch it again? And this is essentially what he tried to do with the first Evangelion Death movie, to try, and he could observe that the second time seeing the same stuff never revives the nostalgic feeling of the first time. By the way, welcome Samuel, welcome Angelique. Don't forget to write in the comments the most confusing thing about Evangelion to you. Okay, and then so the death of Evangelion Death was a movie that was released at that time. It's not really interesting because it's essentially the same as the ending of the original anime, but like kind of put in a movie format. At that time, movies were already super great when it comes to animation and imagery. So they still had to like work on it, on the scenes, to make it like seem movie worthy. But then after that, if you welcome Pascal, by the way, everything is confusing, and that is right. I'm going to go over that after explaining like the context of the end of Evangelion. Stay tuned for real, because I'm going to explain something really, really important. when it comes to studying anime, because you know this series is called Let's Study Evangelion. It's not like anime review or anime analysis. You know, it's really we're studying it in a more academic way, and I'm going to explain also what's the difference. So yeah, first things first. So the death of Evangelion. So after the release of the first Evangelion movie, which is Death, well, the Hideaki Anno received death threats as a form, like hate emails basically, and the Gainax studios were like vandalized. And so what he did is he made an entirely new movie to show that, you know, actually his creativity, but he used many new ideas in that movie, which made the end of Evangelion different in many regards to the original anime. Like actually, if you watch the original anime Evangelion, you can see that the action is so fast paced, like the animation is just so great, and because of that, when you think about it, well, it's already great, you know. But Hideaki Anno really shows his artistic skills with this movie project, like with the end of Evangelion. It's the most visually impressive of all of the works that he ever did work on. Like any project he worked on, like I think the end of Evangelion is really the summit of his glory here. Welcome Mario, by the way. Don't forget to comment what's the most confusing thing to you about Evangelion. Okay, now let's talk about what is studying an anime. Like, what is studying? Well, it's exactly the same as studying any cinema movies. Okay, the problem with modern and actually popular videos of analysis, like for example those that you're going to find on YouTube or on like magazines, is that they only study the anime based on the plot. Like they only care about the plot, and they don't actually study the anime as it is, like as an anime. They study it as if it was like a novel or something, just a story, because they only look at the story and they think every answer is in the story. This is not what we're going to do here. And also the other thing that usually anime reviews or analysis people do is that they start from what they saw and remember and know about the anime, and then they start to create like theories and conclusions. This is not what we're going to do in this Let's Study Anime series of lives. What we're going to be doing is we're going to study how the anime was made and what was like the authors and the producers' point of view on the anime. What did they want to really create? And this really helps understand like the circumstances and the context of any anime actually. Welcome Caroline. Don't forget to comment in the comment sections the most confusing thing about Evangelion to you. So yeah, okay, so how does it differ? Okay, so anime study, when we start to study anime from the authors, like the creators' perspective, we have to realize one thing. Okay, the creator did not want to write a novel. He did not want to like just write a story. The author made an anime, like because he likes art. He likes animation, Japanese animation, and as such, we have to take this this work as something that was made to be animated, that was made to look like an animated work. And because of that, it's really important that we understand that everything that we see is a picture. It's a picture that moves and interacts with other forms. There are like abstract forms, especially in the Evangelion series. There's a lot of abstract forms, and that may seem weird to some people, but they're still forms. like the human body is a compilation of lines and colors that creates forms. And unlike real life, where human body, you know, we're like basically a ton of molecules, and a living being, you know, it's very different when it comes to animation, because animation considers the human body and everything as an image, a picture that we can alter. And this is really important, because that's why anime can seem so confusing when you look at it, because what you see as a form does not make sense with what you understand from the reality. And because our brain really hates the absence of explanation, our brain is going to start speculating and try to make up ideas. But when you make an anime from absolutely nothing, from like from scratch, from your own ideas, it's really important that you realize that when you create an anime from your own ideas, you want it to be animated, you want it to be image, and you want it to be not necessarily realistic, and you want the story and the pictures to actually fit into one big thing. Welcome Thibaut, welcome Francois. Don't forget to tell me what's the most confusing thing to you in the series of Evangelion. So now that I've explained that, let's start looking at like the end of Evangelion. Okay, so I'm actually not going to go over every single details, except the fact that, you know, this big battle against the Eva at the end of the movie, it's basically what was supposed to be the original ending of the anime, but because of budget problems, the two last episodes were kind of botched and made in a different way with a much happier conclusion. While this one, like this big battle against aliens, was supposed to be the original ending of the anime. So you can consider them to be more or less like an alternative ending, because actually Hideaki Anno really wanted to make this ending, but of course he put a lot of new ideas. So after the original Evangelion series ran, well, Rei and Asuka became basically kind of waifu characters. They became like objects of pop culture fantasies. They basically became waifu material for the otaku audience. And the opening scene in the movie is basically a reference to that. We basically see, I'm not going to go to be very explicit in what's happening for those who have seen the end of Evangelion. I'm going to, I think you guys are going to understand more of what I'm referring to, but for those who have not, I strongly advise you to actually first watch the movie and then come back to my life. You know, it's going to be on YouTube later, so you can just watch after. Welcome William, by the way. So yeah, the first scene we see Asuka in a kind of comatose state. She's like basically unconscious, and Shinji wants her to wake up, because you know they've become quite close at that moment, but not so close. Welcome Marie-Pierre, by the way. And as such, the first thing that happens in basically the first scene of the end of Evangelion is Shinji getting super excited, you know, looking at Asuka and doing his guy thing. And you know, and this is actually a kind of parallel that Hideaki Anno draw toward the audience. He already did that in the original series when he showed us like a ton of Rei's clones to show us that, you know, Rei, like she's cute, but she is a fictional character. So we can create as many like her as we want, and she is not like warm and kind like an actual human being can. She could be like just considered a bunch of lines drawn. And it's the same thing with Asuka here. It's to show this kind of otaku to waifu interaction, you know, because when she's in a comatose state, Asuka is no more a real girl. She's basically became an image of someone. And just like the waifu in the typical anime, she cannot do something, she cannot interact at all with the audience. And Shinji, as kind of a representation of the otaku fanboy who loves his waifu, does his thing in front of the Asuka who cannot, like, you know, do anything about it. But there's also another very interesting idea here. As you can see, otakus in Japan, especially around that time, had a really big problem with when it comes to contact with women. What I mean by that is that they are basically considered like, you know, there's like this big stereotype about them being not, you know, the most popular, and women basically considers them like as being worthless, you know, like because they don't have jobs, they don't have education and everything. Welcome Marilyn, welcome Julie, by the way. Don't forget to comment the most confusing thing about Evangelion in the comment section. I'm going to attempt to answer all the questions today because this is a more relaxing session of Q&A, and also I'm going to keep talking about the end of Evangelion. So back to it. Well, this otaku interaction with women is also clearly shown here because actually Asuka was in a comatose state. So Shinji, if he wanted, he could have done more things to her. Actually, he could have basically touched her or do all sorts of, you know, discussing stuff to her because she cannot defend herself. But Shinji does not do that. He refrains from touching her. That really goes well with the parallel drawn to Shinji equals otaku image, because otakus have this kind of, you know, they often feel like they don't have the right to touch women. They don't have there's just this so big lack of contact, and often more often than not, it's also due to the fact that they or, you know, the women that they look at are like waifus. So how can you have contact with a waifu? You know, it's this kind. Oh, welcome Mark, by the way. I'm glad you came today again. Don't forget to comment in the comment section your the most confusing thing about Evangelion to you. I'm going to attempt to answer them today. By the way, today is not going to be the last episode of the Let's Study, because I do want to make an entire episode on Rebuild of Evangelion, because Rebuild of Evangelion is wonderful. It's so great. It's like another experiment on the fans that Hideaki Anno makes. There's so many ideas behind a Rebuild of Evangelion. When you think about it, Rebuild of Evangelion came out more or less like almost 10 years after the end of Evangelion. So, you know, Hideaki Anno had the time to think about project ideas and experiments. So, of course, it's going to be very cool. And so, yeah, back to it. Okay, after that scene, you can see a lot of typical action. I believe that most of what's happening next was basically part of Hideaki Anno's original script when it comes to the original script when it comes to Evangelion. So, like, I don't have too much to comment on it. I mean, it's just like the normal action at that point. New enemies appear and we have to prepare to defeat them. You know, that was the original ending planned. Wait, I'm going to read you. Is it true that it's all a hormonal explosion and every girl woman is a way to mirror that result? Well, I do believe most otakus are teenagers, and teenagers do have like this kind of always thinking about sexual stuff kind of vibe. at least for a lot of otaku, definitely, I think they think about women like basically every day. They because that's just how hormones works. I'm not sure if that was the meaning of your question, but in fact, Evangelion really shows how otaku interact with the opposite gender. You know, like when Shinji goes in Misato's house for the first time, Misato is basically almost like, you know, you see a lot of images of Misato in very suggestive angles, let's call it that way, and basically, you can see that almost every female character that Shinji comes across with has their kind of well, embarrassing moment, let's call it that way. Welcome, Nancy, by the way. Don't forget to tell me in the comments the most confusing thing about Evangelion to you. No, okay, but yeah, Misato is an object of desire to many degrees for Shinji. I mean, even in the end of Evangelion, she ends up kissing him, because to him, like, she is basically the older woman, and yeah, their relationship is not as deep as you think, because you could think that maybe Misato being an older woman and the fact that Shinji never really met his mother, Misato could have been a mother figure to him, but actually no. They just made her this older woman kind of object thing in the series. I mean, she does have character development, but I think how Shinji sees her is not as deep as how his relationship evolved with Rei or Asuka or even Kaoru. You know, I really love Kaoru. This character is so great. Yeah, she's like the older sister, but like, you know, he's kind of, there's really something between them that just doesn't feel like a human relationship, like you would expect human relationships to be. When you think about it, actually Misato is the first character that Shinji actually meets, and yet their relationship evolves maybe the least out of all of Shinji's relationships. But yeah, let's go back to the actual movie. At some point, you can see Asuka fighting against the replicant Eva series, like all of them. And if you remember, actually, last time we talked about what the eye symbolizes in this series, because of Story of the Eye, which is a novel that I would not suggest anyone to actually read. But basically, in that novel, the eye is a round object that symbolizes one's life, and at the end, the person being tortured in that story loses their eyes. And this is what happened in Evangelion, basically, because to defeat any angel, you have to destroy their kind of round ball eye object. And when you see the battle between Asuka and the other Evas, in the end, before dying, what she actually loses is her left eye. I'm pretty sure it was her left one. Yeah, it was her left one, which symbolized like the fact that she kind of is defeated, or like, you know, her identity may be gone, or there's a lot of interpretations here. And this is what I was talking about when I said this is not a novel, this is an anime, and you have to study it for the imagery, because for a novel it will not be as apparent to understand this round circular object that looks like eyes. But Hideaki Anno, he's an anime producer, he absolutely sees the parallels between round circular objects, because he has to draw some of these scenes. And well, actually most characters are drawn by Sadamoto, who is the author of the manga but also the character designer of the anime. Welcome, and by the way, welcome Juliet. Don't forget to tell me in the comments section like the most confusing thing about Evangelion to you. Okay, fast forward, and then for those who remember, I explained that Rei was designed to be the character that represents souls. So she doesn't have a specific body because she could take like any body, because she has a lot of clone bodies. And unlike normal humans, she is basically present everywhere. And that's really interesting here because in the end of Evangelion, when the actual human complementarity project, human instrumentality project, I mean, actually begins, she is the one that you see around everyone, like a kind of angel or a kind of soul that is just present everywhere when everyone becomes LCL, which is the kind of liquid that everyone turns into before they fuse. And that really goes well with the idea that, you know, those are characters, those are images, those are you know, there's many people are confused about Evangelion, also because they think, like, you know, nowadays we're a lot into conspiracy theories, we're a lot into look deeper into the story, and there's are elements that you know, but let me tell you guys one very important thing here. You're not going to find some hidden truth about reality in Evangelion. Okay, that's not how it works. Evangelion was not made to have some hidden truth or anything about life in general. It was made to be anime, so you have to really look at the image and be able to actually interpret what the image is here for. Like, you know, human bodies don't need to be as firm and, like, you know, as concrete as human bodies in real life. That's already a good example to show you that things can really be very, very different than real life logics. Toward the end of the movie, you can see like a kind of a lot of image of the death threat letters that he received. Also, you have some pictures of the Gainax studio being vandalized by people after they were, like, you know, angry about the first movie, I guess. And Hideaki Anno actually likes to play with those stuff. You know, he wants to. It's kind of, he shows those images to people in a very depressing movie, because I believe he wants to kind of toy with the fans at some point. Like, he wants to play with what the fans' expectations are and just show them, you know, like, because at that point the Japanese society really likes secrecy, intimacy. So nobody will ever expect him to actually put the images of those photos, because everyone wants like a good image of Gainax Studios. You know, they want like the good image, and they want to give a good image. But he does not really care that much. He just shows it, put it in the face of people, and just show them that, because he actually can, and just to see how the audience react to that kind of stuff. Well, okay, now we're approaching the end. Okay, the ending is super interesting. I think the last few seconds where Shinji basically tries to strangle Asuka, and then Asuka says like it's disgusting or something like that to him, is maybe like the most interesting part of the entire movie, because this is so open to interpretation. So what I personally think, I'm going to explain like how I personally think about it, like how what's my own interpretation basically. So at the beginning, we know that Shinji Shinji don't want a world where everyone's hearts are together. And by that I mean he reject death. Okay, death is what he rejects here, because actually you have to understand here. Okay, Shinji's mom, Shinji's mom is a soul that lives in the Eva. Okay, so him entering into the Eva and being protected by the Eva is kind of a parallel to how is very young otaku may feel like the real world is too difficult for them to fight. And don't forget that Shinji runs away most of the time from every single problem. So this is a kind of image to show that at the end Shinji still wants to run away, and he can like basically keep running forever if he wanted. But at some point, if you keep running, well, you are not living in reality anymore. You're basically going to, well, die in this case, because it's a really depressing movie. Okay, don't try to find some nice moral kind of meaning in the movies, like in a Disney movie or something. It's a really depressing thing. But basically, how I see it is that if the project came to be completed, if like everyone's heart are as one, well, he's dead. You know, everyone is dead. That's the idea here. So if he wants to keep living, he has to accept that everyone is going to see him differently, and he has to accept that he has to love himself first. Well, that part is not really shown, but basically from one of the card games of Evangelion, there is a small text that basically explains why he strangles Asuka. It says as follows. Okay, basically he rejects the world where everyone is as one, and he accepts to greet the world where denial and rejection can exist. And this is why the first thing he does is to feel like that he can touch Asuka. Because if you remember the scene right before, okay, when he was with Misato and Rei in the kind of very sexual position, like they were souls, so they could not touch each other, but they could like understand each other, talk to each other. Basically, you see Rei sitting on him, and them having this conversation, and they could not touch. So right after, what he wants to do is confirm that he actually succeeded in bringing back the real material world. So he goes to kind of try to touch her, but because he's kind of clumsy and a bit stupid, I guess, he basically tries to strangle her to really see, like, I can actually touch him. I can actually touch Asuka, so Asuka can't reject me. So she is actually a real human. So this is what I think is the explanation for his action. And now, well, actually, from what I read from the production side of the following scene is, you see Asuka basically touching his face and then saying it's disgusting. This is actually not as complicated as it seems. You just have to actually be able to like make the distinction between the image and the actual story, what happened. Okay, because the last interaction between Asuka and Shinji was Shinji being excited and basically doing his teenage guy thing in front of Asuka, who is in a comatose state. But Asuka somehow, most of the people who are in a coma, if like sometimes they actually can see and hear what's happening around them. They just cannot react to it. So actually, it's disgusting. This word, like kimochi warui in Japanese, it basically refers to that first scene of the movie. Like the beginning and the ending. Well, basically duality here. So it refers to the first scene where Shinji was doing his stuff in front of her in a coma, and she's kind of replying to that. It's really disgusting. What are you doing? And this is basically what this is basically what happened. The voice actress for Asuka was supposed to have a different line, but like it did not convince Hideaki Anno. So Hideaki Anno told her, okay, look, what happens if a guy breaks into your house and basically starts looking at you? You cannot do anything, and he tries to rape you, basically. Okay, but he does not succeed. But instead, he smells stuff in front of you, and you actually you're forced to look. Like, how will you feel? And it's disgusting is the first thing that the voice actress has said. So, and Hideaki Anno was a bit more convinced by that line than the original line that I actually forgot. So he told her, let's go with it. Let's go with this one instead. And this just goes to show you that there's not, 1,000 secret layers of depth of understanding for this scene. You just have to understand who made it and why and how, and you basically understand the anime. Anime studies is not about going into super depth and super speculations of what's happening. Anime studies is about studying the image, studying the production, and studying the story writing, but all together as one. You cannot look at just one aspect and just neglect the others. You have to make sense of all of them, because they were made to be presented to the audience all together. So yeah, this concludes my explanation for the ending scene. I hope that you actually understand. I hope that it makes more sense to you, Anne. And of course, we're going toward the end. We're near the end of this live today. So yeah, I'm going to announce it here, but basically, in the future, I plan on doing those lives on Evangelion again, but like in a more organized and with more maybe documentation with better images to talk about them once I'll have like a larger audience, like, because right now it's really the kind of beginning of the beginning of the English community of otaku, so I don't have a lot of people to explain those stuff to, but I definitely plan on doing again like the episode 1, 2, and today is 3 in the future, but maybe like next year or something. Like it can be in the far future, most likely, because I have other animes to talk about meanwhile, and I have other stuff, because I've been in Japan traveling for like 1 entire years, like, so I think like I'm going to be talking about a lot of places to visit in Japan for the next few lives, and also other subjects in manga, because we're still a manga community above all, even if my personal kind of field of expertise is like animation, but we're going to be talking about manga too. I love manga. I think manga is actually easier to read, because sometimes watching anime for a very long time, it can hurt your eyes and stuff. So manga is kind of a more stable and more long-term stuff, and I also like to read, like novels, manga. I like all of them. So we're going to have a lot other subjects in the month of April or maybe May. I'm going to make the final episode of Let's Study Evangelion, like episode 4, which is going to be about the rebuild of Evangelion, so the first 3 movies. And then after that, eventually I'm going to redo like the entire four episodes of the lives now, and maybe provides with you guys with even more information. I think it's going to be fun having more people to reach out to. So yeah, this is going to be the end for today. Next Friday we're going to go over an entirely different topic. We're going to be actually talking about food in Japan. I'm pretty sure like, and maybe like 10 restaurants to try in Japan or something like that. Utena. Oh, I know Utena. I actually watched Utena. Utena is an anime that's, I think, really great for the era. Like, you know, nowadays we'll have very deep stuff like Attack on Titan and Madoka, for example, which are just so deep, and I'm definitely going to make episodes about them. But yeah, I like your suggestion because I really like Utena. I don't think it's as confusing as most of the other anime I'm going to talk, but yeah, the ending is super confusing, and so I'm going to explain like what Utena means for feminism and what herself as a character, like the I'm probably going to make an episode about Utena's last few episodes and what's the final arc about, and what the characters says and what they mean, you know, those kind of stuff. Thank you for the suggestion. I hope that you're going to be with us during that Utena episode. I could probably do it like around April or May. Let's see what happens. So yeah, now it's the end. So see you guys later. Maybe probably next Friday. Bye bye. Okay, no, it's this side. Bye bye. So yeah, it's like kind of you know, reversed. So I don't know which side is where with this webcam. Okay, see you guys.